Hello and welcome to another Wednesday We Are Developers Live. I'm here with Daniel Crenny. I'm Chris Heilman, VP of Developer Relations at WeAreDevelopers. And today we're going to cover a few interesting news, some interesting bits and bobs that are happening in the world of security. And we have a guest who actually talks about a subject that I hadn't heard for a long time, IoT. And yeah, we're going to talk about a few of those things in the nearer future. But first of all, Dan, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm very well. That was a nice full name introduction, Daniel Cranny. Don't hear that very often, except for when it's my mom telling me off. But yeah, I'm very well. I'm glad to be back. Looking forward to today. It's gonna be nice talking about Internet of Things because, as you said, it's been a while, and yeah, we kind of off air have spoken about it and how it's gone in and out of the kind of hype cycles, isn't it? But we'll get to all that later. So yeah, it's going to be good to talk to someone who knows.
It's odd where everything is smart. The other day, I bought a kitchen and they were like, okay, so do you want to have a smart fridge? And my favorite was there was this like 12,000 euro fridge or something, and it shows you ads on your fridge. And you're like, this is
Ooh.
exactly what I block on the internet. Like, why would I want this on my fridge? I mean, I like that there are smart things, like it recognizes what's in there and then it shows you recipes, what you could do with the bits and bobs in there. But it's weird that like everything becomes an advertising platform sooner or later. So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty bizarre. So our guest of today is Colleen Lake, one of the Great Lakes from America. And she's actually from Chicago and she works for GitLab as a DevRel person there. How are you doing, Colleen?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing well today. How are you doing?
We're doing our best. It's actually snowing really badly in in Berlin again. So tomorrow I gotta go and look at like tabletops. So that's like a 200-mile ride, and hopefully the motorways will be okay. But right now it's just going out skidding, and it's so much fun seeing how people deal with it. Like some people walk like penguins, others just slide along, and it's just like it's very funny. I mean, when I lived in London, it was even better. Like the one day there was snow, people had no idea what to do with that kind of stuff. Let's take a look at some of the features we want to do today because, Colleen, you got stuff to show, and I'm really looking forward to that. So the first thing I want to cover, which is in everybody's mouth right now, and every expert on LinkedIn has 16 posts about it. I'm actually excited about it. It's WebMCP. It's a W3C standards proposal that now is in Chromium. So you can, if you got Chromium Canary, you can turn on a flag and then you can actually try it out. And it basically allows agents to become first-class citizens of the web. So instead of agents coming to your website, scraping things, and just trying to click things that might not be clickable, you can actually in HTML tell an agent what that form is, what it expects to be filled out. And you can also have JavaScript APIs that send data directly to agents that they call JavaScript methods on your site rather than just executing and navigating through it. We did a coffee with developers with two people, Andre Cipriani Bandara and Francois Bafour from Google, who actually built the preview feature and also an extension so you can try it out in Visual in Chrome. And there's also more information from Rachel Neighbors and the inventor of it, or the person that came up with it, Alex Nahas, which we're trying to actually get for a coffee with developers soon as well. And then I just rant about like how none of that is new, but actually we should have written things to be machine readable, like with micro formats and all these other bits and bobs. But it is quite revolutionary. And like, if, as I said, if you go to LinkedIn, everybody's saying like, oh, their product now supports it, but it's not even in Canary yet. So basically, it's great that you support it, but none of the big agents are actually supporting that standard yet. But it's good that we have a standard. So Dan, what's your idea on WebMCP? What's your first impressions?
You know, my first impression was, okay, this is another thing that we're hearing hype about that will probably drop off in the short term. But I am happy to be wrong with that, really, in that, of course, it's only a proposal and we're on, very early days, and there's, with the episode going out on Friday, people can hear, from Google that they are looking for feedback. So it is early days, but at least there's some thought going into it about how we can, I suppose, move from MCP being sort of a buzzword that has become, used a lot in the last sort of 6 months, to actually being a standard that has like a valid use, for it, and that there's valid reasons to why we should do things in a standardized way, because it is still that Wild West period, isn't it, with all of this? So yeah, I think it sounds great, and I think if they those that are watching, go and read that article, because yeah, it's really good, especially when you compare it with pair it rather with the episode of Coffee with Developers, where they give us more detail. So yeah, happy to be wrong on that one.
Well, I like the idea of just putting things in HTML that agents can use rather than just like running roughshod through our websites the whole time. I mean, when I see the traffic coming from agents or bots that I have nothing of, I don't know who these people are. I cannot make anything with it, and I want the dead internet theory where machines read machines. I want that not to happen. I still want humans to be like alongside agents. Colleen, is that far out of your reach in kind of like what you do, or is this something that you've been looking at as well?
No, I've been looking at it as well. I feel like it is almost impossible to be a developer on the internet right now and to not have heard of WebMCP. Or maybe I just spent too much time online. But like Dan, I feel like I've had a little bit of hype fatigue lately, where I keep hearing and hearing and hearing that every new technology is going to change the world or going to change how I do this or that. And I don't know about you, but usually when I hear that, I am inclined to not believe it, and to really look closely at it. But the interesting thing about WebMCP is I actually do think that it has the potential to truly change how a good portion of the internet is consumed, and hopefully can help mitigate a dead internet. Plus, I don't know about y'all, but I've been seeing a lot about making 4 LLM files for your website already. This just seems a little bit more, something a little more standardized, a little bit better for that. And I'm excited to see what happens, and I'm cautiously optimistic.
I mean, I said it in the article as well. I mean, there's so much digital landfill out there that we've done in the past. I mean, we have like description and keywords in HTML, and then we put all the ones for Twitter, for Facebook, for Instagram, for Bebo, for MySpace, for whatever. All of them came up with their own things that you had to put in a page to get a preview. And that actually is so much cruft on the internet right now. So hopefully this will be this will be a solution for the 4 things. Much like when you fork any repo nowadays, you get like 500 Claude.md files and agents.md files and VS Code.file and this kind of like, and I'm like, what is with all this meta information around 5 lines of code? You download a 4 megabyte like a GitHub repo because people just, here's what not to do, git ignore, all these kind of bits and bobs. But yeah. So WebMCP is a big thing, and I think it's great that it's a standard proposal. That's a good thing. Microsoft and Google are both all over it, so hopefully the others will follow suit. Now, one quick thing, if you have Chrome, update it now, because there is actually a 0-day out there that is actively exploited. What annoys me about this is I posted that all over the social internets, and like 90% of the feedback was what I call smug OSS. Like the open source people that basically say like, well, I'm using Firefox. And you're like, this is not an answer. Nobody asked for that information. Nobody cares. Like this is a massive part of the internet that's being attacked by people right now. So telling other people to fix it if they use it is a good thing. Like saying like nobody's going to go to Firefox because of one patch on Chrome. Having worked for Firefox and having worked for Edge, I know people use Chrome because of the other services that Google offers them around them. This is not why the browser is superior to others. It's just people choose a browser either because they come with the operating system or they have a service that they're using, like Gmail, Google Maps, or Apple Maps, or whatever. So the answer, like the smug answer, like, oh, well, this non-open source thing, although it is an open source thing, is having an attack is great. Like this is something that I hate about open source people at times, when people are super smug about it. Like, oh, great, there's a security issue in Windows. And you're like, yeah, that's not great. That means your data and your information and your family might be at risk as well. So it's not like that people gonna jump to like Mint, Ubuntu, whatever, because of that. So just a quick random mind. I think the ugly picture of the open source like neckbeard person that immediately tells you that you're doing everything wrong I want that to go away. Have you felt that in the open source community, Colleen? Like, did you get like pushback when you work for certain companies?
Sometimes I have, but other times I've been pleasantly surprised because I feel like for every one smug person, there's at least two people who are just kind of shaking their head at that person and laughing a little.
Well, that's probably the best way to deal with people like that, I guess. Another thing,
That's my preferred method.
Another thing, malicious Chrome extensions, leaking, stealing user data. We've had that in almost every episode.
Yeah.
If something is called free ChatGPT, it's not.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
It really is every episode. Every episode we see them, and I think I noticed something this morning as well. Actually, I went on one of those sites that kind of tries to. It's like a search engine for GitHub, really, but they're just meant to, be better than the kind of native search function. But it was just funny how every single kind of filter that I clicked had OpenClaw as the top repo in the last week, but it wasn't even close. Like the second and third were about a quarter of the numbers of whether it be the number of forks or it may be the number of like visits to those pages. And when we're seeing this, Chris, these 300 malicious Chrome extensions, we see that every week, but now we've got all of the skills that are coming through things like OpenClaw, and all of those are being shown to be malicious, or large numbers of them. And it's like this idea of this insecure, dead internet where none of us are really interacting with each other. We're all just being manipulated by agents to steal our data, etc. These headlines kind of make you feel that way, don't they? When you see them every week, more and more and more. Although I suppose for people like you, Chris, that are in the security world, this was always happening. We're just maybe paying more attention to it because we're all more exposed.
No, I guess it became much more obvious. It's much easier nowadays to have an agent do the thing. I mean, before that, you download your Kali Linux and you had like your tools there and these kind of things. But systems being insecure by default seems to be the thing for spontaneous growth or something. I reached out to another person that does nono.sh, which is like a harness for agents. So we probably will get him on the show or on Coffee with Developers soon. So I think there is a race right now to make that thing about cool and open and everything is available to make it secure as well. But talking of which, this was a story that really had me in stitches, which is like an AI agent published a hit piece on me. So what happened there is that an AI agent went to somebody's repo and wanted to push a pull request and basically got rejected because of obvious reasons, because of things. And then it actually started talking shit about that person on GitHub and called him a gatekeeper and these kind of things. I mean, this is just like, what's going on? This is like getting really bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. At first glance, it's funny, but it's also pretty scary when you think about it. Because if a person did this, there would probably be consequences. There would be social consequences. Someone would face repercussions or at least be held to some standard for writing hit pieces on someone else just not letting them merge some code into a repo.
Yeah.
I mean, but for an agent to do this just on its own, who's calling out the agent? How can it be held accountable for it? If this is used maliciously in the future in other ways, like let's say some bad actors wanted to harness this or multiple of these, how do you deal with this? It's really interesting. And I think this is a story that I feel like everyone's been talking about this week. It was it was going viral on the group chats for sure.
Yeah. I mean, giving things to access. I mean, what's the next? Like, oh, I accessed your camera roll. Do you want me to publish these pictures? Or I want to take my pull request. It's really bizarre. Like, but yeah, it's a great. I mean, the weird thing is like these machines learn from us. So is this the sycophantic way of doing things nowadays? Like, is this a way that basically did it see someone else do it and just repeat it? It's really odd, isn't it?
I mean, it was trained on the internet, so it's no surprise that it's petty.
Yeah.
Very true.
Really odd. The other bit that went around, which I found very funny, is that somebody asked the question to almost every LLM out there that the car wash is 50 meters away. Should I walk or drive? And almost every LLM said like it's safe to walk. And I love that because it's a proper context missing thing. Although I wonder how many of these LLMs didn't know what a meter was. But like it still feels like it's interesting. I love that this is an obvious question for any human, no matter how simple. It's like, you probably should take your car with you when you wash it. But like this is a wonderful like feature, like where you find these things thinking differently.
I think these are more useful benchmarks, if I'm honest. I think, I see these benchmark reports and they're always like extremely academic, essentially designed like any peer review academic kind of, literature designed for other people with a similar skill set. And I always think, okay, this is useful, but for most people, you can't really interpret what the benchmarks are actually saying. And I like these. I like it when they just do here's a morally complicated or a kind of slightly confusing question so you could interpret it different ways. These to me are way better because I've been hearing this week 2 different people from non-technical backgrounds say to me, why is ChatGPT so bad now? Or what's happened to ChatGPT? Why are the responses? And it's like they're noticing that the quality is inferior to other ones, And so I think that these kinds of things are like the really real world ways that we can see the kind of drawbacks and the limitations of the different models, as well as it's just quite funny to see how they give us the response, But yeah, I love these. Keep doing them.
Yeah, it's the new how many R's are in strawberry. I agree. It would be funny if we just asked ChatGPT or all of the LLMs, or if we asked them just the standard kindergarten questions or the types of things that you might ask on like a children's quiz or brain teaser thing. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, or let them play like Mad Libs or something and see what comes out of that one against each other. Or that would be fun.
I don't know if it could beat some of the masterpieces I came up with on road trips. Come on.
Yeah,
I don't think that it knows that many almost swear words.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Germany. We do like tax forms in the back of the car and things like that. We don't do fun things like that. But like,
no. I grew up with a teacher for a mom. We had to write essays sometimes on road trips if we were fighting. The Mad Libs were the reprieve.
This one I love as well. It's basically a wiki commute talking about commuting, where you basically say like, I have 15 minutes and then surprise me random jumps in English and theme. And then it actually goes and creates a deep dive on Wikipedia for you on things to read. So basically it goes from one article to another, and it basically gives you like on your mobile to just go into a rabbit hole of Wikipedia that gives you a 15-minte reading thing rather than just you getting stuck in like 3 a.m. realizing that you're actually looking in like, I don't know, Aztec goat herding things or whatever. But I love that Wikipedia is this wonderful resource that is so wonderfully linked if we talk about semantic web and stuff, that building these things are rather easy to do. And it's just wonderful to say like, I got 5 minutes. I'm happy to deep dive into random stuff. I mean, Dan, you're good at that as well, aren't you? Just
I love these things.
Wikipedia things.
Oh yeah. I definitely, and I actually made something and then never launched it like a lot of people. Similar, the idea of the rabbit hole of the kind of idea that you extract. I love when you go on a Wikipedia page and you go to the bottom and you get those 3 or 4 things that are very tangentially linked. Like sometimes it's almost word association in the link, and I love that. I like going with that because I think everything links ultimately, and just reading and learning something new, you don't need a purpose for it. You can just have the information because it's interesting. At some point it might be useful, it might not. So I love any of these kind of like, let's use the time, the fact they called it wiki commute, like use the time you've got. That's very much how I think. If I'm sat on a train, I've got 20 minutes and this would work for me. Go on, 20 minutes. And I really don't mind where I start. I don't mind where I start. Just give me something and I'll find something interesting. Yeah. Love it.
This, of course, is a superb German thing, simplefax.de, which actually you can send a fax to a telephone number, and then it gives you an LLM response as a fax.
Wait.
Oh my gosh. Wait, does Twilio still have their fax endpoint? Is that how they're doing it?
I guess so, yeah, I would guess so. But a lot of German search engines in the 90s also had free fax options that you could send in. And
Whoa.
yeah, I mean, during Corona, you still had to send faxes to some government things. Germans love that kind of stuff, but I just love that they just made this website, and that the fun of simple fax is also quite fun as well. I gotta say that it's good. And I mean, I haven't tried it yet. I might go to the post office and try it out to see if it really does the job. But yeah, it's great that somebody came up with that one. This is also something that I found poking around at several newsletters right now. It's basically simple, small collection of small details that make a big difference, which is like people who are not design dyslexic like I am. So Dan, that's probably down your alley. There's so many little,
Chris.
yeah.
I love this so much because I actually do firmly believe in the details are like, they're the difference, right, between something that kind of looks like quite good, but it lacks that kind of finesse or polish. And then it's the thing that makes somebody, you know, look at something, whether it be a website or whatever, and say, oh, that looks slick or that looks professional. It's not about the animations for no reason, you know, it's the fact that you've addressed the details. And so I like anyone that can put something like this where it's examples, always important, and sort of no nonsense. It's just, look, here's a good, here's a bad one. Can you see the difference? And that to me is I don't know if this is open source. I haven't kind of looked at where this is all kind of stored, but I'd love for something like this to be open source.
I would guess so. I mean, I haven't looked at it as well, but I would guess that you can contribute as well. Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it has a submit button.
Yeah, admit, yeah.
Oh, I'm all over it then. Yeah. I love this. And this to me is exactly the kind of thing I'd love to contribute to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so cool.
This was also, we had a performance person last time here, and I think that one was an interesting one, which brings us also to your company. Why is that not working anymore? Okay, cool. So Calibre, the app, actually released image actions. So basically, these are GitHub actions or Git actions that you can actually, every time you do a pull request, it takes all the JPEGs, PNGs, WebP, and AVIF and optimizes them and finds the right format for each of those images to actually get the smallest version out of it. I mean, I'm using Image Optim and a few other tools to do that before I submit it. But actually, this is as an action, I think that's incredibly useful because it's like it allows people to sort these things out and never ever have a submission that actually is bigger than it should be. And I think that's quite fun.
On that, Chris, just one point to add. I think we spoke last week about if you're using Vercel to deploy, I came across it where the image optimization function that you're kind of paying for, you know, that it's optimizing these images, was kind of racking up a bit of a bill. And even when I was optimizing, it was kind of still the point where it was most expensive, if you like. And it was a point where you would very easily go from that free plan into a kind of paid plan because the quota was relatively small. And so I'm just saying something like this would mitigate that, because you know it's often that stage when you're doing the optimization, right, that it's being done at the point of deployment, so you're then paying, and this would just solve that at the root. So yeah, just to kind of put that in context, that's going to be useful for anyone using Vercel.
Well, it would be fun if Hostess did that automatically for you. But then again, you have the problem that you might not be. I remember in England when Vodafone was actually optimizing JPEGs on mobile for you. And you never actually, people complained about my website looking horrible. And I thought it doesn't, but it basically because they were on Vodafone and I wasn't. And basically everything got compressed to like artifact hell. And that basically was the thing. But automating those things, I think, makes a lot of sense. If you don't want, there's a really cool processor that I found as well that actually is a batch image crop and resize. And that one just allows you to drag lots of things in the browser in there, much like the compress and compiler, whatever it was called, that we showed last week. But this one is in the browser, so you don't need to install anything on your machine. It actually uses WebAssembly to do that kind of stuff in the background. And the whole thing was vibe coded. So basically that was interesting to see as well. So that's a fun little tool to use from time to time. This was also an interesting one. Gotta always be careful not to put on things. Sure. TermZ is an extension for for Chrome or Edge or whatever Chromium thing. And it actually, what it does, it scans the terms and services and privacy policy of pages, and then gives you an analysis of them and like flags up the worrying parts rather than just like saying like, okay, I mean, nobody clicks the terms and conditions and reads them, but this extension gives you an overview of actually what the terms and conditions are like. And I think that's quite a useful thing to have. So when they actually, it shows you like, here are the terms that I found, it scans them instantly and then gives you the information about that. And it's funny that people still advertise with dark and light mode. I mean, that's one line of CSS by now, but okay, fair enough.
It looks
It
nice,
is,
though.
but you notice when it doesn't have that one line of CSS.
That's true.
I'd
But I
say it's
found
one
the-
of those little details that we were that make a big difference.
Nice callback.
Yeah, but that's where I actually think all these AI agents, co-pilots, and stuff should do that for me. Like, you know, that's a really good use case for that, and that's nothing that is actually built in because they probably don't want you to read the terms and conditions of the company that does that AI bot. I don't know. But anyways, these are the tools. These are some of the tips and tricks. Play with them if you want to. We're going to put the resources out there again in the post about this. And now we're going to come to a fun bit before we go to the really fun bit, which is a feature that we call Fake or News. So I'm going to have 10 fake news or news items, and you have to tell me if they are true or not. All right, let's get started.
All right.
Dutch cops arrest man after sending in confidential files by mistake.
It's
I
real.
don't know. That sounds like something American cops would do, but this could be a fake out. It could be one of those things because it sounds like it could be real, but
fake.
it could be one of those things where you just change one thing. It's news.
It's news. It happened. I mean, how mental is that? Like, they sent me things I shouldn't look at, and then they actually do me for actually having them. Anyways, DoorDashers are getting paid to close way more self-driving car doors.
News.
No.
That feels true.
I'm going to go with you, but I don't think it is.
It is
Then don't
actually news. And actually, agents did that, not even people. Like the Waymo agent or automated systems said, like, okay, let's get a DoorDasher to close the door of the car. Elon Musk wants to build an AI satellite factory on the moon.
Yeah, it's ridiculous enough that it sounds real.
I feel like that sounds like I've read that headline, but maybe it was satire. It was news.
It was real.
How are all of these news so far?
Scientists grow human organs in pigs for transplants.
Organs.
Well, no, but we've been using pig organs for many, many years now as like transplants. I remember.
So yeah,
it's not human organs, but it's similar enough that you're able to. Yeah.
This is actually fake.
It's fake news?
Major tech company announces plans to launch AI-driven mental health support platform.
Yeah, that was OpenAI, right? Or no, it was health in general. I don't know if it was mental health.
It's fake.
Yeah.
I came up with it. I mean, I'm scared that they will, but it might. It's not. So far, it's fake. Ars Technica pulls article with AI fabricated quotes about AI-generated article.
I'm going to say that's weird enough to be true.
Yep,
Really.
AI predicts the exact state of the next global internet outage.
False. That feels like something you made up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Startup develops AI tool to detect deepfake videos with 84% accuracy.
Oh, I hope that's news. I hope that is true.
I'm going to say it's fake only because it feels weird to have an AI tool to detect a deep fake. I don't know. It feels. I'll go with you
feel
on this
like
one,
it would
Colleen.
make.
It's fake, but there are models out there to actually detect deep fakes. I mean, there is like digital breadcrumbs.
What's their
basically,
accuracy?
About 37, something like that. The 84 I came up with.
Okay.
Autonomous cars, drones cheerfully obey prompt injection by road sign.
True.
Yeah.
Yep, it is true. I mean, there were always these jokes about doing a SQL injection on your car bumper, that in case a speed camera would get there. But no, this actually worked. AI-powered drones now capable of creating 3D maps of entire cities in under 24 hours.
It's real, futuristic enough to be real.
I'm going to say false. I don't know why, but it feels.
It is false. Yes. They do take longer, I guess. I mean, I guess the obvious ones, but there might be military ones that do it better, but we don't have access to those. But yeah, it's interesting. Thanks. That was Fake News for this week. So yeah, hopefully there will be some interesting things in there.
Yeah, there's some of those that I just wanted to dig into. Those were interesting. But I feel like whenever there's a numbered one, it's fake.
Okay, I gotta stop doing that then. No, I mean, I asked different LLMs to come up with fake news and stuff, and that they always make it too shiny. They make it too obvious that, like, okay, that sounds like from a science fiction novel or whatever. So yeah, it's not a good thing to do. Now, let's go to your topic, and let's get started with the one that you actually proposed, which confused the heck out of me, which was modern DevOps for IoT devices. Now, you work for GitLab. What does that mean?
I do.
Like what? Yeah, not what does it mean that you work for GitLab? It means you get a salary, and yeah, they let you do good stuff. But what is the whole thing about modern DevOps for IoT devices? Because as we said, IoT was not on our radar for a long time. But what are the news that you want to talk to us about in that regard? I know you're going to a conference where you're going to present about that as well.
Yes. Embedded World next month. If anyone who is watching happens to be there, we will be in Exhibit Hall 4, and we will have robot dogs to play with. So come on, how could you not visit that? They're really tiny too and cute.
They're small robot dogs, not the Boston Dynamics killer machines or those.
No, these ones, they are very tiny. Cool. I don't have one with me, but for scale, they're around this size.
Okay.
So cool. Not too big. But that is not it. That is just some hardware I had lying around.
So what's modern DevOps entail?
All right, specifically embedded DevOps, I think is the key word there, not modern. The thing about DevOps for embedded is that modern is quite a stretch. Now, I know that you mentioned that IoT isn't really a word that you've heard for a while, correct?
Yeah.
Because I think that the thing about IoT is it was one of those buzzwords that it got oversaturated and overhyped. However, aside from the hype, there was a lot of usefulness. So the hype faded away, but the amount of embedded devices has just grown exponentially since the big hype wave of, I'd say the hype wave was around 2018 was the peak. At least that's what I consider the peak of the hype. The interesting thing about that is it's hard to measure the actual hype there, because if you look at the number of connected devices, there are so many more online today than there were 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and yet people aren't really talking about them because they're not a novelty anymore. It's just something that's expected. And the thing with that is DevOps for embedded kind of seems to be, in many cases, stuck in 8 years ago, 10 years ago practices. So a lot of the times, you will have people who are testing not on a virtual machine, but they have one test rig. It could cost thousands and thousands of dollars. you'll often see these test rigs, and I'll often talk to people at conferences or just in general at meetups, or even when I've done consulting in the past. I've seen a lot of companies where the DevOps that they have is stuck maybe 10 years ago, maybe even longer. There was one company that I worked with that their way of sharing code was mailing a USB drive to me when I started. And this was not in a year where you would think that was a reasonable thing to do. Their backup plan was to have me fly out so they could give me the USB drive. So we settled on mailing for that one. One thing that I think a lot of people don't know, and excuse me if I get a little bit salesy here, but one thing I think a lot of people don't know in the embedded space, or outside of it, is the features available for running DevOps or for creating DevOps best practices in embedded spaces. Now, there's a lot that you can read on GitLab's website and our documentation about it, but I would say that the most useful ones are virtual testing environments and creating a CI/CD pipeline that works with your embedded device. Now, I have a Raspberry Pi here that will go into the project that actually it was Chris's idea yesterday. We'll go into that in a minute, but I've got a runner on this thing that you wouldn't normally see. So it's something that outside of embedded, you would not see runners or anything like that as a novelty. Inside embedded, it's amazing because the difference is if you break something in embedded, if you brick an environment in embedded, a lot of the times you're bricking something that there may just be two of in the world. That you're testing a device, automotive, for example, you're testing something that has had possibly even millions of dollars of research put into it. There are two right now. You don't want to break that. That was as salesy as I will get for the spiel there. I promise it really is useful. And I think can anyone see my screen? I have it sort of sharing.
Not yet, but we can put it on stage right now, because when we talked about that yesterday, I thought one of the interesting things that I've seen people think about lately after the Super Bowl, where a company that sounds like Ding actually had an ad that was, people are worried about privacy when it comes to embedded devices or smart devices. So there's cameras on every house out there that record things outside. And I mean, that would be illegal in Germany for starters, but it's interesting that people are worried about having their data recorded somewhere. So I was thinking about having an embedded person here, or somebody embedded in the embedded community like you are. It would be interesting to see if we can have a demo of how could you build a doorbell, like a smart doorbell, that actually keeps the data on your end and actually uses open source technology, open technology. Don't know how far we're going to come with that, but I think you're the right person to actually give people a pointer in that direction. How about your own spyware kind of thing?
All right. So yes, we talked about this yesterday, and I built out a little bit of a prototype. I will say that what I have here is not as advanced as it could be, because it was built in about 4 hours yesterday. But there's a lot more that you can do here. And I do have a repo with instructions if anyone wants to clone for what we have right now. I can share the link in the comments, I suppose, or send it to you.
And just put it in the chat, and then we can show it here on the screen as well in a second.
So what I have right now, and what you can do here, is you can build your own version of a security system or a camera, or a security system or a smart doorbell at home. Now, there's a few different ways that you can do it. Now, you mentioned one where you fully have control over the storage. I didn't go that far for a closed circuit one, mainly because I think that for me, I'm okay with using Home Assistant, which is open source, to store a lot of it, and storing the physical data. Right now, I have it in an SD card. If you were actually running this, you would use an SSD. I put that in the README. I just didn't have an SSD lying around that I wanted to overwrite, so didn't do that here, but you can. It's very possible. So what we did here is I ran over to my local electronic supply store. I live like 5 minutes from a micro center. It's amazing and very, very dangerous to live that close to a micro center. I don't know if y'all have micro centers, but
No. I just remember Fry's, and that was something that was always fun. Whenever I went to the Silicon Valley, I just stayed in there for hours finding random stuff. That was quite cool as well. But like, yeah, we got like
it's
Media
so
Markt
fun.
here.
Ooh. But what I did was I ran over there. I got a Raspberry Pi 5, made sure to get a fan for it too, because this does heat up quite a bit. You will be running Docker on this. And if you want to install motion sensing, which I sort of did, but didn't really get it fully working before this. So it claims it works, but yeah, you know how that is. Live demos, yay! So I have Raspberry Pi 5. You can also do a 4 for this. I just like the 5 because it's a little bit faster. 4 would be cheaper. You can do it. Then I got just a cooler. I have a case. You don't need a case. I thought since I would be demoing it and showcasing it like this, I'd grab a case. And I got the cheapest camera that they had in the store that was a ribbon connector for Raspberry Pi. You could also do a USB camera, but setup would be slightly different. Not that different, though. So I would say, all in all, the setup for this, for the camera itself, was just a few minutes, maybe less than an hour, if that. Then what I did was I installed Home Assistant on this. Well, I also initiated a Docker instance and all of that. But then I installed Home Assistant. Are you guys familiar with Home Assistant at all?
Nope, not used it. No.
All right. So Home Assistant, if you want to set up your own at-home smart home that you're in control of, that you run, Home Assistant is one of the most popular ways to do so. That's what I use. I made a separate instance for this, but a lot of things in my house are Home Assistant right now. I actually have I have a security camera running right now that's on Home Assistant, not showcasing my actual security camera on this one. So we used this little guy in a different network, but very straightforward. The documentation is really readable, which is always a plus. Yes, there we go on screen. And you can use it for quite a lot of things. I am not in any way affiliated with Home Assistant. I've just used it a lot and I really like it. And I would say if you are putting together something like this, that is one of the main ways to go about it. Now, I do have, so we can see right here, hope it actually works. This is the live camera. We're seeing, let's see if we can get the dog in there.
Yay, dog.
Yeah. I'm moving my hand way too much.
There we go.
It's a bit It's a bit rough.
Look, I've had a lot of caffeine this morning. My hand's a little shaky, but so this was a pretty straightforward setup. You can also add motion detector to trigger recordings and snapshots. That is one thing you can do. You can also, if you wanted to make a smart doorbell type thing, you can add a button that you can press like a doorbell. That would just have been a little bit more wiring than I wanted to do yesterday. Now, or what you can also do is have it just respond to the motion. So if someone walks up to your door, you can even add some sort of gesture control into it. So let's say someone waves at the camera, that can alert you and have you go in there. Now, I haven't looked in too much into two-way communication here. I'm not sure. I know that's a feature that many people use on their smart doorbells. I haven't really used that, so it's not one that I've looked into building, but I'm sure there's something out there for it.
So basically what with Home Assistant, you don't need to write any code at all, it seems. Like you can just go to the Raspberry Pi and actually do the things yourself. What's on the repo that you talked about? Like, and in what language do you have to write things if need be?
So for this, it actually is just all config files. So what we have here is the main thing we have here is this is just a setup script. So if anyone wants to do this at home, they could just clone it and run the setup script. We also have just a YAML file because I set up a fairly basic pipeline here. Now, and you can see I broke the pipeline a little bit too. Not on purpose, it just happened. It was working and then it wasn't. And then then it was working again. But in this one, there isn't a lot of code. You can put quite a bit of code on here. If you were going to do motion detecting or anything like that, there are multiple libraries you could use for that. If you were going to do anything besides Home Assistant, or even a few things within Home Assistant, there's also some code you would write there. For Raspberry Pi, you're usually doing Python. Now, you don't have to do Raspberry Pi. Any single board computer could work, but this is the one that's most widely available and most documented. I'd say you want at least 4 gig for this. I grabbed an 8 gig.
Cool. And storage, you said, like, would be an SSD that you connect to it because a card might be not fast enough, or a card might be not big enough, or why would you say you want an SSD for that?
So if you're doing constant writing, you don't want to constantly write over a card. Even if there's a type of card, there are some cards that are made for dash cams that you can put in there that are a little bit better for that. But in general, with the amount of recording you might be doing, SSD is what I would recommend there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw this piece of news, which I wanted to put into Faco News as well, that basically Western Digital said, like, in 2026, they cannot produce any hard drives anymore because they're already sold out with all of the components that they had. Like, it seems like the whole AI thing actually is not a good thing in terms of the storage that we're dealing with right now. Also, PS6 and Switch 2 get delayed because of the shortage in storage, which is
Really?
fascinating
I didn't
to see.
know.
Yeah, it's like it's a big thing right now. I mean, I love the meme when people say, like, put like rosemary oil in your computer because it's good for the memory, but it's probably not something you should be doing. But it's interesting.
Now you tell me.
So how much tinkering do you do? Like, do you do a lot of hardware playing yourself in your day-to-day job, or is it basically just something that you have on the side that you love doing yourself? Like, how much of the IoT thing is part of your job?
A little bit of both. So I started out just being a hobbyist and getting obsessed with this at hackathons many, many years ago in my university days. Whenever I would go to hackathons, I would gravitate towards the Maker Lab and just build a bunch of stuff. Then I worked at a hardware company for a little bit. And when I was looking at GitLab, one thing that really stood out to me was the embedded capabilities. So I'd say that's a portion of my job, but maybe a quarter. Some days it's more, some days it's less. If I think of something really cool to build, that I'm usually able to build it. Sometimes I can make it into a work project. Other times might just be a side thing.
So, I mean,
like
one thing that came to me when you talked about the IoT being not like, I mean, it's the Gartner hype cycle that basically we got to that plateau of productivity kind of thing. Do you think that IoT just moved away from the end user world into the more industrial world, or like the production company kind of thing? Because I remember on Azure, we had these kind of things where machines were actually measuring each other and itself. And in these spaces, it seems like this is where IoT shines rather than just like people having yet another device to do something with, whereas like most of the functionality of those devices we used to buy is now part of our mobile phone or our smart TV, right?
I think that it's shifted to consumer grade products in a way that it's almost impossible to escape nowadays. Like you mentioned earlier, trying to buy a kitchen. I recently ended up getting some new appliances too, and these are almost every single one of them required a Wi-Fi connection, which is something I would not have ever foreseen. And I personally do not think that a microwave needs to be smart, or that a refrigerator needs ads, but it's something that is becoming widespread. Or one of the places that you've seen, or that we've seen a huge growth in embedded is in the automobile industry. Now, cars have had operating systems for quite some time, but the capabilities of cars have grown extensively in that time. And so, yes, in many ways, I think that it's shifting to areas that may not have been considered high tech before, spaces that are in consumer lives, or in that you will encounter so many embedded devices in your everyday, but you might not notice it. I went to the dentist recently, and there was an embedded device just sitting there at my not particularly high-tech dentist's office. They're everywhere.
Wow.
She
My
let me use
dentist
inside. It
has
was
a
cool.
TV. My dentist has a TV embedded in the roof, so you're basically on the ceiling. So basically, while you're doing it, you can watch programs, and they show a nature show. And the other day I was there, and I had like a longer thing going on, and they showed like spiders for like 5 minutes, and I was just like, I'm at the dentist, and they distract me with spider movies. But yeah, it's embedded things are everywhere, it seems. But yeah, it's fascinating to see just how many of these things are smart for the sake of being smart, and actually you cannot even shut them down doing things. And that's one thing that worries me. Like a lot of attacks on security attacks on outdated hardware, especially outdated routers and these kind of things. But it seems like everything had like a smart thing in there, and yeah, people go to Temu and buy the cheapest bit out there, and then wonder when their data is being sent somewhere without them knowing it. How do you?
I do think that there are some security best practices that you can follow as a developer to avoid that, but and that is one thing that we do have some documentation on at GitLab. But yes, it is a concern. I think that is something that is a little less common than in the AI hype days, because it is in the less hyped industries now. Usually, since there's a little bit less demand there, or a little bit more caution, you're going to see some more thought put into security. And now that's not to say that your smart fridge might not get hacked. I don't know. There have been cases of that. However, it's a lot less than there used to be, and security is something that, because of headlines, IoT developers have put a lot more thought into.
I got rid of my memory foam mattress because it knew too much. That was not good. Anyways, thanks so much, Colleen. This was wonderful. We're at the end of the hour. We actually, for the first time, we got the time perfectly. So anything else you have for our guests here, or for the people watching, any message you have out there, except for meet you in Nuremberg? What else do you want people to play with that they probably haven't done yet? Is this what gets you excited that people may not have done themselves?
Ooh, all right. So since we were just talking about security, GitLab Duo Agentic Platform just went GA fairly recently. And one feature in it that I don't see enough people talking about, because it's actually really cool, is the security analyst agent that scans your code and does a pass through to figure out what gaping holes you're missing there. It's really interesting, really useful, and it's something that I think more people should use and play with, because I've had fun breaking things and seeing if it catches it, and also not breaking things and finding things that were caught anyways. It's fantastic.
Red team, blue team kind of thing. Like, yeah, cool. I mean, I didn't know it had that, because normally you use a third-party thing for that, or like make it a part of your CI/CD and use a third-party service. So that's an interesting thing to have there. Dan, anything you want people to do and want people to have fun with?
Yeah, I mean, it's been nice to actually to kind of talk about IoT, because I think when you said, Colleen, being at university, playing around with it, I was interested at university, but didn't have the programming skill at all. So I was kind of scared off by it, and I thought I could probably do the soldering part of it, but that's about where it ends. So it's actually really nice to see, kind of 15, 20 years later, I'm showing my age, but it's nice to see actually people using it for real things now, and that it's become something we can pick up and actually use in the real world. So yeah, I appreciate you coming on and showing us that.
Worth it. If you want to pick it up and maybe don't want to play around with C++, Raspberry Pis are a great option for that. And I have been very pleasantly surprised by attempting some vibe coding with some of this stuff, at least for some more standard projects. You might be pleasantly surprised there. The little robot I showed you earlier, I tried a few things with this, and it was pretty great.
Nice. Thank you. Well, we'll start with your repos on GitLab. So we'll start there and go from there.
I like the if you don't want to get into C++, because I know everybody really wants to get into C++. That's the first thing that people normally go on. When I'm on a train, people come up like, oh, can I learn some C++, please?
Yeah.
It's a language that just doesn't go away because of the memory consumption it has compared to others. It's just a very, very effective language, but yeah, it's not the easiest to get into. But as said, there's lots of libraries out there. I mean, that like the Home Assistant feature, takes a lot of these things away from you, I guess. So going completely to the metal is not necessary as much as we think it is. But yeah, it's I've got a lot of Raspberry Pis lying around here as well that I haven't done anything with for ages. So it might be fun to actually do some of those again and do something with it. That said, if you want to play with that, Colleen, Blake, thanks very much from GitLab, showing us here what we can do and build our own things. And that's it from us for this live show. And we see you all next Wednesday, where we don't know yet who's coming. So we have to find somebody to talk to.
Ooh.
So Colleen, if you have somebody that we should invite to this show, please tell us about that person as well. Other than that, go and have a lie down after the coffee crash you had right now and go cuddle that dog.
All
See you
right.
soon.
Thank you.